So boys, welcome back to episode 12 of the Two Real Podcast. This first section is going to be about me, giving me a summary of how last week has gone and how the journey is going so far in my life. So if you want to skip past that and you want to get straight onto the advice for today and the topics we will be speaking about, make sure to slide the time bar and you'll see certain sections in which you can skip to. So do that now if you want to skip to those, and if you want to watch the summary, let's get straight into it. And also, before we get straight into it, make sure to head over to Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts to go access the podcast there as well, because you can now listen on all those other platforms. So if you are going on a walk, if you are doing anything other than sitting down and wanting to watch it straight up and you just want to listen to it, go check it out on all those platforms. It's going to be the same name, Two Real Podcast. So go check it out now and let's get into the episode. Right, boys, last week's update. We're going to go over the week. For me, it was quite a strong week. There was a lot more planning involved other than physical action. I've been trying to plan recently a lot more for videos in terms of structure to make them better for, my audience and for myself as well. And I feel like a lot of the time when I was just relying on raw content, I was repeating a lot of the same points as I've been doing on a lot of these podcasts. So moving forward, the new implication is I'm going to be structuring more. I'm going to be making them better so I can get better advice out. I will not be copying scripts or structure, but instead I'll be sitting there writing the structure and the scripts myself to make sure they are as good as they can be. So when I do, present and give my advice or give whatever it may be, it's as good as it's just as good as possible. It's as good as I want it to be. So, boys, the life update in general, recently, the journey update, everything's going very, very well. It's going very smooth. And every now and then I'm getting one of my day in the life, so one of my other videos really performing, and I'm becoming really proud of my capabilities and what I've been able to achieve so far and the sort of path I'm heading down. And that's what you should do for yourself. If you should wake up in the morning and think, oh wow, I worked really hard yesterday, I'm going to work really hard today again. You should be thinking that to yourself. If you're not doing these good things in your life, there's clearly something wrong. You need to detect that, and you need to fix it before it's too late. But onwards from that, it's going really well for me, boys. I've every now and then I'll get a video which is doing really, really well, one of the day in their lives or something. One of them 3-4 days ago is on like 250, or I think it's on 289 views. That might not sound like a lot, boys, but where we've come from, getting averaging like 6-7, getting one of those videos every now and then proves we can do well and we will do well. And I'm proving that with every single step that I take in my life every single day of the week. So last week was very good. The journey so far is going very strong, not just with content, with my life in general. The last few months when I switched to all natural clean foods, my life has been better than ever. I've been feeling better than ever. I've been speaking better than ever. My energy has been through the roof. My testosterone levels, I can genuinely sense the difference, that they've gone up so much. And yeah, we're just going to continue with that healthy side within terms of the gym. My strength has gone up. The way I push in the gym has been different. It's on a whole different level to where I used to be, where I'd go in there, sort of half-ass it, not go to failure. Now I'm going to failure for every single set. I'm pushing myself not only with the diet, with content, but in the gym. And also the other side of that is my life in general in terms of my mindset. My mindset has become so much stronger recently, especially in the last few months of all these new changes I've made in my life. So boys, I've been feeling good, okay? I haven't needed validation from others. I haven't needed that short-term dopamine from doing things that I know I shouldn't be doing. Ever since I quit every sort of bad habit and every sort of thing I know I shouldn't have been doing, my life has become so much better. And I knew that was the case all along. But unfortunately, you need to open your eyes up to it. I think a lot of us know what we should be doing. We know what we shouldn't be doing. So instead, when you actually start doing the things you know you should be doing, everything becomes so much better. So boys, we're going to get into the episode for today. There's probably a lot more things I could go over, but I don't want to make it a whole video just me going over summaries and stuff and how I am doing, because I'm pretty sure you just want the advice. And later on down the line, when I've built the success for myself, we can come back to these sorts of videos where I've gave summaries and I've proved that all my work has proved success. But for now, it's just about giving the advice, and that's the main thing I want to do. So boys, let's get into the full episode of today and all the topics and all the things we're going to be speaking about. And let's start off with the first one. Start now, adjust as you go, and trust the process. There's going to be no better time to start than now. Every day you don't start is a day further away from whatever you want to achieve, and every day you do start is a day closer to whatever you want to achieve. I think people try and focus on finding the right time they should start doing this, the right time they should start doing that. But there is no right time. That's why they never start, because they find out there actually is no right time where you're going to feel 100% good all the time, or you're going to feel 100% motivated all the time to do something. There is no perfect time to start, and there is no perfect time where you're always going to feel like doing something. That's not the case. So because of that, because you know that as a known fact, you just have to then start at that very moment from when you realise it. That moment you realise there's no perfect time to start other than now. Maybe I don't feel like it now, maybe I don't feel the best in myself, but I'm going to start anyway, because I know if I start this, I'm going to be a step closer to whatever I want to achieve, or wherever I want to be. So you just have to start. If you don't start now, you're going to start never. That's it. That's what I always found for myself. I was always giving myself excuses to why, I can't start now, I don't have the time, I don't feel right, I don't feel motivated, I don't wake up and I feel like I want to do that. But that's not the case. It's not about whether or not you feel like doing it, it's about doing it anyway because you know it's the right thing to do. And I feel like that's so powerful. When we know something is the right thing to do, it's just about doing it. And I think a lot of people try and find reasons, or in other words excuses, other than actually doing it. I think knowing that it's the right thing to do is a big enough reason to want to do, should be a big enough reason to want to do something. If you know you should be eating clean, you know you should be going to the gym, you know you should be trying to set out big goals for yourself, knowing it's the right thing to do should be a big enough reason to do it. But instead we give excuses, we try and give reasons, or in other words excuses, and we try and say that, oh well, I will start it, but I'm not going to start it now, I don't really feel like it right now, I like the comfort, I like where I am. So we don't ever start it, and then obviously the bill for regret is a lot higher than the hard work that would have been endured. It would have been better to do the hard work than it would be that feeling that you're going to get from regretting it later on. So start now. And that's the thing with adjust as you go. You can adjust things as you go, as you are on the journey and on the path to whatever you want to be or wherever you want to go. You can adjust along the way. You're going to suffer mistakes, you're going to endure pain, but along the way you can change things around, you can learn things, and you will learn things, of course you will. So adjust as you go, but start now, then adjust as you go, and then just trust the process. All the mistakes, all the failures, all the successes, whatever comes your way is going to come your way. It's definitely going to come your way. You're going to endure pain and suffering, of course you are. That's what makes all these goals that you want valuable. If they didn't have any value, you wouldn't want to do them. So you're going to endure pain, you're going to endure suffering, you're going to go through things you don't want to go through, you're going to have to deal with hardships to get on the other end and get beyond whatever those bad things that you're going through, so to get to the good ones. So boys, start now. Understand that over time you can change things, you can adjust to whatever the journey you're going through, you can adjust things along the way, and trust the process and trust time especially, and everything will come together. You have to learn that life is happening through you and not against you. I feel like a lot of us, we're sitting here saying, oh, I'm so unlucky, all these bad things are happening to me, I don't feel good, I don't feel happy. It's all a result of the choices you have made in your life. It isn't magic. You're not just magically unlucky, or you are the chosen one to just get all the bad luck. That's not the case. The case is all these decisions you have made in your life so far, whether it be good or bad, mostly bad if you're sitting there complaining about all the bad luck, it is a result of all the actions and the choices you made. I feel like when we start to take accountability and responsibility for all the bad things that are happening to us and the way we feel, especially if we feel sad, if we feel like we're not good enough, or if we feel like we don't look good enough, we need to start taking accountability for that. I mean, there are things you can't control, of course there are, but there are also a lot of things you probably can control, and if you're not controlling them and you're still sitting there complaining about how unlucky you are, that's your fault. I don't want to always come across as blunt. I want to come across as emphasizing with my audience sometimes, but it's hard to do so when people complain about things they can change other than the things they can't. They sit there complaining about things they can't change, like genetics and stuff like that. Oh, I'm just naturally looking this way, or I'm just naturally feeling this way, or I'm wired this way. You can change that wiring. You can change certain things even if you feel like you weren't blessed from the start. It's okay. You just got to focus on the things you can change, and if you focus on the things you can change and you actually put action in, they will change. But you got to stop believing that you're just unlucky. You got to stop believing that you are the chosen one to endure all this suffering and pain, and that's the only thing you're going to do for the rest of your life. Especially if you're young. I hear a lot of youngsters, even when I'm working, I hear a lot of people at work like throw around all the time that they want to. I'm going to say they want to off themselves, but you know what I mean. They use the word starting with K, but I don't know if I'm gonna get not demonetized. I don't know if it's going to get censored, so I'm just going to say they just want to off themselves. And like 16, 17, they're sitting there joking, they're like, oh, these bad things are happening to me, I just want to off myself, just want to end it all. It's just like, not only are you not realising how bad you saying that is at such a young age, but also like, it's not going to help you saying that, it's not going to help you acting that way, but what is just genuine action. And there are always things we can control. So hearing it from people who are young as well, who haven't even started their life, like, your life genuinely doesn't start till you're 18. Genuinely, like, for me, everything before 18, I'm 18 now, but anything before about 6 months to a year ago was just felt like I was just letting life dictate everything. I wasn't in control of anything. It was just happening, from young to school to wherever it was, college. I was just letting life happen. I was letting it play out. But now I decided I needed to take control, and I needed to actually have control for things to change and for things to be better. And I first realised that my victim mentality and believing all these bad things are happening to me was not going to get me anywhere. It's actually going to make me go backwards. It's going to get me into a dark spot and a dark place. So I had to take accountability. I had to take responsibility for that, and I had to then take control and realise that I'm going to feel better. I'm going to feel good. But that's at the extent of if I actually put the work in and I put actions in. So do that for yourself, put the actions in, stop complaining about how unlucky you are, stop complaining about that you think you're the chosen one for all this bad luck and no one else is dealing with anything else and you're the only one dealing with all of it, because you're not. And you know that, but you like to give the excuse anyway. So push past that, take action, and you will see changes. And also, with life is happening through you, all the actions and all the choices you decide to make from this moment will dictate how your life will look in exact ways. Maybe not everything. There are things that just happen that you can't control, but most you can. So every action you control and you choose to do will dictate your life. So make the right ones. You need to adopt the mindset of a student. No matter how much you achieve, there is always something to learn. I feel like a lot of us, we always think there's an end destination, but I think that's the thing I love so much about my journey and self-improvement and creating content, is there's never going to be an end. There's never going to be an end to that goal. I'm never just going to, a year from now, I'm never going to get like a video that's going to get like a few 100,000. I'm not just going to get that and think, oh, okay, we'll stop. I'm not going to do that. There's always something to learn. There's always better ways to be better. And I think when you realise this, you start to realise that wherever you are now, you can be better. You can learn new things. For me as well, another example was I always was looking at people creating content, and especially short form content. I was like, how are they editing this? They've got an editor. How can they afford this? How can they do that? How can they do this? How can they do that? And then I realised I just started teaching myself how to edit short form content. And I'm not saying I'm amazing at it, but I've become so much better at it from where I first started. It's just about understanding you can learn new things, whatever it may be, and no matter if you have any experience in it yet. That's why when you go to college, a lot of the or school, you haven't done a lot of the things before. It would be like one of my college subjects I chose. I was like, oh, I find this really interesting, but I've never done it before. I chose it, had no experience going through it, but I learned all these new things because I realized I don't need to be nervous going into it. Of course I don't know anything, I haven't done it before, but I can learn and I will be willing to learn. I feel like when you become willing to learn, and you become willing to learn with everything, with all your mistakes, all your successes, everything that happens to you, then you start to realize that things just naturally become better. When you start to learn and you implement those lessons into your life, and you start to practice what you preach, meaning whatever you say you're going to do, you can do it, and you're going to try do it better every single day, 1% better, and you're going to learn all the lessons through it, then everything, will come together. And boys, I don't want to keep repeating the same points, but I like to articulate it in a different way. I like to give different explanations to each point, even if I'm repeating the same one in each podcast, because it's the same sort of overall message. I feel like there's only a certain amount of uniqueness you can add when it comes to filming and saying the same things as a lot of other people. I know a lot of this self-improvement advice is already out there, but I want to try and practice articulating it and, you know, explaining it in a different way so you can understand it and to make it unique for me and my audience. So boys, let's get on to the next point. You have probably heard this before: hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And what I mean by this is we're not all talented. We're not all born fanatics in a certain sport or a certain thing. We have to learn it, and we have to practice and practice and practice and practice over and over again and again and again. And we've got to work hard in whatever to actually become good at it. And we always look at other people who are who we think are naturally gifted and who are naturally they just have the it factor, and they just know how to do a certain thing, and they're already good at it when they haven't even practiced. And it's just like, you can continue looking at those people who are apparently naturally gifted, or you can understand that if you put in the hard work and you work harder than someone who is naturally gifted, you can become more successful than them, you can look better than them, you can get on a better wavelength than they ever have been on. And what I mean by that is, you may feel they are better than you now, but it doesn't mean you can't be better than them later. And if you decide to take that action, whatever it may be, towards whatever you want to, you know, put that energy towards, or the action towards, you can be better than someone who is already there. For me, when I'm looking at role models who are extremely successful with self-improvement, one of the biggest fixes I decided to make in my life is posting content every single day. Maybe my quality isn't incredible, but it will improve over time through practice and hard work. But that's the thing, I realized that a lot of these guys who are in a better situation than me, and who I believe are on a different wavelength with this, and who are already, you know, successful, I still believe that I can do better than them. And if I work harder than them and I do it for long enough, I will be better than them. And maybe that's not always the mindset to have. Like, I feel like with a lot of my role models and stuff, sometimes I don't feel like I want to be better than them because they help me so much. But knowing I can be, if I work hard enough and I do it for a long enough period of time, and I learn from what mistakes they've made, and I make sure to not make them at the times they made them, and understand that, and to understand I can improve and I can be better than them based off their mistakes. So that's why studying is quite good as well. I study a lot of people who are in a better position than me, and that I want to be, and whose position I want to be in, and to make sure that one day I can be better than them, and I can be like them. So doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter where someone else is, doesn't matter how talented you believe someone is, and how untalented you believe you aren't. The only thing separating that distance is hard work and action. If you put the hard work in and you do the actions on a daily basis every single day, you can be better than someone who's already in a position you want to be in, or who you feel is gifted with talent when you weren't. Hardships often prepare ordinary people for extraordinary destinations. What I mean by this is, we are all ordinary. Before we've achieved anything, before we've worked towards anything, we're all ordinary. But every single time that a hardship comes, pain, suffering, wherever it may be, again and again it builds us into a different version of ourselves, our own selves. And it makes us a better person over time, more wiser, more resilient, more stronger minded. And that prepares us for extraordinary destinations. For me, over time, through all the things I've been through or I have endured, it's made me into a very strong individual. But it's only because I've let it. Because I've let it build me into a stronger individual instead of letting it destroy me. It's now set me up to be able to achieve great things and big things, because I'm turning up every day here. I also understand where I can be a year or 2 years from now if I do carry on doing this. So all the hardships I have been through, I am blessed for. I always say this when I used to be at school. I'm not saying I was hard bullied or I went through a lot of heavy bullying, but I went through a little bit of bullying, and I always am faithful for that. I'm always so grateful for it, because if I didn't, I would have been like everyone else. And the fact that I wasn't like anyone else in the moment has led me to where I am now, which is like no one else. It's just me being my unique self. And if I would have been trying to fit in with others back then, and I wasn't bullied, and I was the bully, then I would be like the bully, and where the bullies are now, which is nowhere, unheard of. They're in no man's land because they didn't decide to do anything with their lives. And For me, I'm grateful for the fact that I endured things that most didn't go through, because it's made me into a different sort of, breed, and it's made me into a different individual. And that's going to set me up for extraordinary things. So I'm always grateful for the hardships I go through, because they built me into a stronger-minded individual, a more resilient individual, which is going to set me up for amazing destinations, especially if I decide to pair that with action and discipline over time. And you need to be doing that for yourself. With all the things you are going through, don't let it destroy you. Let it build you. Let it make you into a better version of yourself each time, in each pain and suffer you go through. And understand that through doing that, you'll become more resilient, more wise, more mentally strong, which will set you up for big things. But you've got to see it. You've got to be willing to see that there are big things waiting for you if you do all of those things and you let it build you, not destroy you. So, boys, hardships, they're hard. That's why they're called hardships. That's why it's called suffering and pain, because they're all things you don't want to go through, that don't feel nice. But in the end, if we let it build us, we are going to be, in the line for big things. We're going to be prepared to be able to, achieve big things if we let it build us. Your excuses are just stories, so rewrite them. It's very straight and obvious here, but a lot of the time we're making excuses, or what we believe are reasons, when the real word is excuses. Imaginary reasons to why we can't do something when we know we could do it without that reason in the way, because the reason doesn't exist. It's just an excuse. It's a made up reason to believe we can't do something when we can. That's what excuses are. And instead of giving excuses, just rewrite the story. Understand that an example I will give is, if you always say to yourself that you can't go to the gym, you don't have time, there's that imaginary excuse that you don't even have 5-10 minutes in your day just to do a bit of working out, then that's the first step. Stop making excuses, rewrite the story. Start by implementing 5-10 minutes in your day of working out. It might, to me that sounds like nothing, but for you it might be a big first step, because maybe you've never worked out before and you kept giving yourself excuses to why you couldn't, time, the way you felt, motivation. But instead, now just start doing 5-10 minutes, then 15, then 20, increase it over time, adjust as you go, like I said in one of the other points. And yeah, it's just about starting, rewriting the story. You can do this with a lot of things. If you want to eat better and you've got a really, really bad diet, maybe at first you start by making your breakfast healthy. Then you do your lunch, then you do your dinner, and now all 3 of your square meals, they're all healthy. Now you're eating all good food. Now you slowly get rid of snacking. You get rid of all these things, you adjust as you go, but you need to stop making excuses. You need to rewrite the story. And it always goes back to the same thing with every single point I speak about. The only person that can do all of these things are you. You are the only one that's going to do it for you. No one else is waiting there to do anything for you. They're not going to do anything for you. They're not going to change your diet for you. They're not going to go to the gym for you, and it's going to give you the results. Like, it makes absolutely no sense. So you've got to do it for you, and the only person who is going to do it is you, for you. It's straight up. The only person who's actually going to make those actions, make the decisions, and go out there and put the discipline and the hard work in is you. And if you want to see those results for yourself, you got to be convincing yourself that that's the only thing, because it is the only thing. And without doing it for yourself, and without actually picking yourself up and doing all these things, then nothing's going to change, obviously. So do the work, understand that you can adjust as you go, and also understand that if you keep giving excuses to yourself to why you can't do something, then nothing's going to change. And instead of rewrite the story. I just want to apologise if this podcast is quite short today. I've struggled with articulation. I've struggled with genuinely trying to give good advice, and I shouldn't lack, because I'm young, should be fit, should be energised, and I am. But today, because I film every day and I speak to a camera every day, sometimes I have days where I'm not as good as other days, and today that is the day. And I didn't want it to be the day, because it's podcast day and it's about getting good information out. It's about helping people, and if I haven't been able to do it that well today, and my articulation hasn't really articulated, let me know in the comments, so I'll try and improve it over time. And let's get to the last point of today, and I apologise for the short podcast today. People are jealous of what someone has, but they are never jealous of how you got it. Okay? A lot of people, they look at that end destination, they look at what they could have, the money, the physique, especially with people in the gym. That's what I've always had. They're like, oh, I want to be short, I want to be big, I want to be muscular, I want to look lean. And they look at people who are already there and just like, oh, how does he have that? Oh, I want that. Yes, they want it, but they're not wanting to put the effort in to actually get it. They don't look at all those extra days and extra nights that guy who was working towards that physique put in. They didn't see that. They don't want that. They don't want to see it, because they know that it's going to require a lot of hard work. It's going to require you to get out your comfort zone. It's going to require you to put the hard work in, even on days where you don't feel like it. And that's why they're jealous of that physique, but they're not jealous of the work it took that guy to genuinely 7 days a week, or however many days he put in a week, for months and years on end to put in. They don't want to look at that. They want to look at the physique. And a lot of people do this, and this is why people compare themselves to other people, because they're like, oh, okay, he's here, he has this, but I want that, but I'm not willing to put in what is needed to get that. So I'm just going to sit here wasting time, and wasting all that time I could be putting the work in towards that. Instead, I'm just going to waste it to sitting here crying and getting upset or doing whatever with my emotions towards the fact I want something, but I'm not willing to put in the work. And most people are oblivious. They are purposefully oblivious to what they have to do, and instead they just want something to happen. They just want it to come to them. But that is never the case, and we all know that something's not going to happen, and you're not just going to look better randomly. You're not just going to be successful randomly. Money doesn't grow on trees, as my mum used to say, or drop out the sky. You got to go and work for it, and you got to go and get it. So yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, I know you want there to be some time travel to where you skip all the hard work, or that others endured, and that now you have to endure if you want that same result. But you have to do it. It's part of the process, and it's the journey. So that's why I would always say the most important part of life is the journey and the process, not the end destination, because we want the end destination now. We always want it, but without the journey, we will never actually do what is required to get to the end, goal or destination. So I always say to end off this podcast, I'm going to say the last thing, which is to fall in love with the journey, fall in love with life, fall in love with the struggles, the pain you're enduring. Yes, it's hard, but it's going to build you into a better person, and you knowing that should be enough for you to just get through it, and you to push forward past whatever things you were going through. So work hard, put in the action, understand that no one is going to do it for you, understand that if you want something, you have to go get it. You can't just stop envisioning it and stop trying to dream about it. Actually put it down on paper and do the actions required. Yeah, it's going to be hard, but it's the same hardships that one guy who is now big in the gym went through. You just have to now do what he did to be able to get that. It's going to be hard, of course it is. It's always going to be hard. Life is hard. Even when we're going through good things, life always feels hard. It's just the way it is. We're all going to have that same end result. We're all going to pass, and there's no point wasting time reminiscing about all the bad things when you could be thinking about all the good things and doing all the good things to get a good life in the time you have. So do that, and everything will get better. So boys, it's going to end off this podcast. I'm sorry for the short one. I'm sorry for the fact that I haven't spoken that well today, but we'll get better at that over time. So boys, it's the end of episode 12. I'll be seeing you in the next podcast and in the next day in the life later on today. So boys, goodbye for now.